There's a lot to learn living in the snow, not the least of which, where you can go and where you can't. And I know now that just because it's a road doesn't mean you can drive on it. That amazing guy came all the way from Nagano City, about 50 kilometers away, across the mountains and in the dark, just to get us out of the snow. We've seen a couple of snows up here already, but nothing like what we missed. We missed this one because we had to go back to Nagoya for the weekend, a weekend in which 50 plus centimeters of snow fell. At this point, I'm asking myself why we're even measuring this in centimeters at all. Headed back home Sunday night, the roads were passable. Not even that bad, actually, and we made better time than I expected. Good enough time, in fact, to stop by the house for a quick look before heading back up to our rental. But once we arrived at the rental, we realized how serious of a mistake we'd almost made. You might recall on a much earlier episode, I mentioned that we were looking at a few plots of land right up next to the mountains. They were affordable and charming in the summer, but we were warned repeatedly not to live that far up. It's no place for a family, people told us, claiming that the snow was double what we could possibly imagine, and no one else in their right mind would live up there full time. Now, that's an exaggeration, or so we thought, until that night coming back from Nagoya. Our rental house is up there, close to the mountains, and on that particular Sunday night, we were unable to drive up to the house. After we got it dug out of the ditch, we drove down and parked the car at the base, then hiked up to the house, and that was how we learned what good advice we had received. Well, all's well that ends well, and we ended up going down the hill to get the car the next morning, after digging out a spot to park it and a path through the snowplow tracks. I think I did a pretty good job, actually, but the simple fact is this. When the snow blankets these beautiful mountains, I know I can get home, as long as home is down there and not up here close to the mountains. Speaking of home, what is happening down at the house itself? Since the insulation work was finished, everything seems to be on overdrive. The team is there from about 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, including Saturdays and even Christmas Day, which isn't actually that surprising since Christmas is not really a holiday in Japan. They'll work until the 29th, when the long New Year's holiday starts. And so far, progress is remarkable. The interior wood paneling has been nearly completed, along with the wooden ceilings. And that leads me to another topic, the ceilings. The head carpenter, Kubota-san, and his team have probably labeled me, and maybe my wife too, as eccentric at best, though they would certainly never tell me what they actually think of me. My latest eccentricity might not strike many as eccentric at all. You see, all I wanted was a traditional Japanese ceiling in our house. Japanese ceilings are traditionally wood or bamboo and consist of slats of wood running perpendicular to the beams. Well, the first thing my wife noticed was that there weren't enough beams. One spot in particular seemed naked without a beam, so Kubota-san added a beam. But we wouldn't be satisfied with just another beam. We wanted real, authentic-looking Japanese ceilings, and I gotta be honest, it hadn't occurred to me that Japanese building techniques have progressed a bit in the last 100 years, and the Japanese public has no interest in what I thought were standard Japanese ceilings. So when we told them what we wanted, Kubota-san and Shimokawa-san, our builder, couldn't help but drop their respective jaws just a little. I'm pretty sure they were laughing inside as they told me they'd see what they could do. But one thing I have learned in the past few months is that if you leave something in the hands of Kubota-san, you will have exactly what you want, plus a little something extra that you hadn't even thought of in just a few days. So, when I looked at those wooden ceilings, I saw exactly what I'd imagined. As if I'd done it myself, but without any of the exhaustion. And I mean that quite seriously, because putting those Japanese ceilings up, slat by slat, reaching overhead, holding the wood, gluing, nailing, and whatever else one must do to secure something over your head is exhausting. And Kubota-san told us that much. But he didn't complain. He just stood back as he does, waited for our praise, then set off for the next job. And we continue to marvel at how lucky we are to have this place, this builder, this head carpenter, and the whole team that Shimokawa-san has assembled for us. Not to mention all the help we've received from people in the town and even viewers of this channel. Everyone has helped us feel so at home here, and we are at home here, even as another storm has completely buried the car in an igloo of a garage. And even that is beautiful. And yes, we had a white Christmas. Next week, the builders will take a break for New Year's and we'll do a walkthrough of the house.